It's a really interesting study. So I guess, are we all ready to begin our press conference? And want to thank everyone for coming today. And I'd love to introduce my friend, Dr. Mike Shercliffe. He and I are going to tell this story, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here today and tell you about Shoreview Dental and our expansion, and also the story of silver compounds and the new tool that we have to control tooth decay here in America. So I'd like to just start out by saying 10 years ago, I was the dental director of Capital Dental Care, and I was searching for a dentist who would see Oregon Health Plan patients in this zip code, 97303. And at the time, there were no providers. And I was driving around, and I got lost. And I found that building. And I walked in the building, and I saw a beautiful view, and I decided that I would become the person I was looking for, rather than keep looking. And so I opened Shoreview Dental with a focus on Oregon Health Plan patients. And I want to thank Capital Dental Care for helping to start that practice 10 years ago. And I want to thank Advantage Dental Care for sustaining that practice over the past 10 years. I'm happy to say that we are serving the community, and we're going to have a new opportunity by expanding our location that we've just opened. So 10 years ago, I felt that I could have an impact on the level of dental disease by doing what I thought was correct. And this publication in 2007 described an epidemic of tooth decay that was taking place in Oregon. This data comes from 2005, so it coincides exactly with when I chose to open this practice. And it showed that untreated tooth decay in children in Oregon was up by 49%, and that children who had a cavity in their adult teeth was up by 38%. This report was a wake-up call, a disaster for tooth decay in children in Oregon. So I was committed to figure out a way to turn this around, and so when I opened Shoreview Dental, I did all the things I had been taught to do more often. I did more fluoride varnishes, I did more sealants, I did courses in motivational interviewing to try and talk people into eating less sugar. I did everything that I thought was right, and what I found is that the problems continued. And we had after-hours emergency calls. We were taking children to the hospital every 2 weeks to do full mouth reconstruction under general anesthesia. It was a regular process, and I was very frustrated that we weren't making more progress. It was at that time that I learned about silver compounds, and from two directions. One is Dr. Shercliffe shared with me a message that he'll share with you in a few minutes about learning from Dr. Milgram at the University of Washington about silver diamine fluoride, which is a product which was not available at that time overseas. And I began studying silver diamine fluoride, and that research took me back in time to more than 100 years ago, when G.V. Black, the father of modern dentistry, was using silver nitrate to treat tooth decay. He was using medicine to treat tooth decay, and somehow we had forgotten about that. And so I began using silver compounds to address the extreme tooth decay in my patients, and what I saw was a miracle. It was absolutely amazing, the ability to stop tooth decay. And we actually carefully measured the amount of results that we were getting and the new decay over time. And we found that children treated with silver compounds, not only did their pain go away and their cavities stop growing, but they got fewer cavities in the future. And this was published in the California Dental Association Journal in November of 2012, cover story about Shoreview Dental. So we continued to focus on silver compounds, and Dr. Shortcliffe and his organization and Dr. Milgram worked to get silver diamine fluoride approved by the Food and Drug Administration, and I'm happy to say that that happened a year ago. And so this modern product, the modern version of silver nitrate used by GB Black, is now available to us here in this country, and we use it every day at Shoreview Dental. And we'll continue to do that to stop tooth decay. And it's, I believe, absolutely a game-changing event in the history of dentistry, and the ability to stop dental disease and to employ dental hygienists and dental assistants in applying this as a fluoride product to extend the reach of the dentists that we have available. So I've been very happy to treat literally tens of thousands of patients in this zip code over 10 years and seeing incredible results, and I look forward to the next 10 years as we continue to serve the community and expand. And I want to especially thank Dr. Shortcliffe for introducing me to silver diamine fluoride, and I'm going to turn the time over to him now.
Well, thanks, Steve, and thanks for letting me be part of this celebration that you're having, the expansion of your facilities and your staff and your ability to serve people in this community. I've known Steve for a long time because I was the president of Advantage Dental, and he was the CEO, president CEO of Advantage Dental. He was the CEO of Capital Dental as long as a dental director, and we knew each other as competitors, working on the same problem, which is the Medicaid population. Between Capital Dental currently and Advantage Dental through the CCO network and direct to the state of Oregon, we have under our care, I suspect, 650,000 Medicaid recipients, which is probably 60% of all of the Medicaid recipients in the state of Oregon. Advantage Dental was formed in the beginning, a group of dentists in Roseburg, Oregon. We're looking how can we participate in Medicaid and create access to care for all the citizens of our community, not just those with the means and the wherewithal and the resources to be able to use the current dental paradigm that we use, which is to fix teeth and surgerize folks. And I call it the restorative surgical paradigm. And we were pretty frustrated because we realized when we got in business to do that we should stress prevention. The problem with it is traditional prevention, where you teach people how to change their behavior, doesn't work very well in a population whose disease is out of control, don't have the behaviors needed to control the disease, and very frankly, don't have the resources. And very frankly, a vast majority of those folks suffer from depression and things like that, and other mental health issues and disabilities, which would get in the way of their being able to use the system appropriately. There's also quite a social stigma on people, the lesser 1/3 of our society, and so there's a lot of social stigma between the dental profession and the folks that they're working on. And so we just learned a lot, and very frankly, 300 of us dentists put up money to form our own company, to use the reserves you have to do, got organized to pursue a delivery system that basically we could provide access. The nice thing about it is the state of Oregon decided to pay in a different way. They decided to pay it in a capitated way rather than a discounted fee-for-service way. At least they gave us the ability to do so, which allowed us to use the resources in a different way. We could organize the money in a way that we could stress prevention rather than stressing the end of the disease procedures, the more expensive stuff. Because typically in dentistry, the bigger the widget that the dentist gets to work on, the more he gets paid for doing it. That's kind of the American healthcare system. We sit around our little factories, the biggest little factory called the hospital, waiting for people to show up. The problems, the bigger the problems, the more it costs. And unfortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, the technology has gotten so sophisticated that fewer and fewer people can afford the more technology and leaving more and more people behind to get the care that they need. And so we were looking for a way to deliver the care. Interestingly enough, we were looking at creating a system a system that allows us to deliver care to everybody. Part of that, number one thing, is to have a system to where you have after-hours coverage. If people have a problem, they can get access to someone who can help them with the problem. And Advantage Dental currently takes care, after-hours care of about 1.8 million Oregonians through our after-hours call system, which is the number one thing we wanted to create. And the other thing we came across is traditional prevention doesn't work, like I mentioned earlier. And so we were looking for what would work. How could you develop a system to help people have no tooth decay and not require the compliance? Is really what we were looking for. And so we worked on a system, and one of the things I was fortunate enough to do is running to Dr. Milton. You know, the real key to life is creating the question, and I had the question, is there some way we can fix this problem without the drill and stop the disease in a different way? And he was telling me about antimicrobials, so there's several that you can use in your mouth that work, and one of them is a different silver compound. And I was fortunate enough to have Dr. Duffin to have the foresight to actually get into practice, set it up so you could get paid in a way where you could stress prevention, and was able to use silver products, and then came up with some results that have been pretty remarkable. The interesting thing is the silver diamond fluoride was not approved in the United States, and it took us about 8 years and $1 million of our time and money to get it approved. And they approved, and basically the FDA doesn't approve anything. They clear stuff to market. They don't approve anything. They just clear them to market. If they were approving things, then they would have some liability, but they don't approve it. They just clear it so you can market it. And whoever does that is really responsible for what happens. And so we were able to do that. Dr. Milton's help, and it took so long mainly because of a lot of it our own naivety on knowing the system and what to do. Another problem with it is the FDA was not really excited about approving silver because they knew that, I don't know why for sure, they just weren't very excited. But eventually we got it approved, like Steve said, a year ago last August, and we were able to market it a year ago this next month, and been able to use the product. It's really dramatic, but it's only a piece. It's really a piece, because this is really an infection. What we're dealing about is a chronic infectious disease that usually transfers from the primary caregiver, usually the mother, to the child, and if you can, so it's really it helps us fight the infection. The dentistry traditionally picks up the drill, and the cavity is a result of the infection, not the infection. And so traditionally we pick up the drill and fix the hole in the tooth, rather than maybe doing that as well as start stopping the infection. And one thing silver does, it allows us to stop the infection, which is very interested in, especially in a population, like I said, whose disease is out of control and doesn't have the behaviors needed to use the system they have, or the resources. So anyway, it gives us a tool to fight an infection. The hope is that we can get all of the disease fixed, the disease stopped, and we can then fill the teeth that should be appropriately filled, and have people not get new cavities going forward. Because as Dr. Oskin can tell you, being over in the bureaucracy now, it's a very, very expensive process. We spend a lot of money in the state of Oregon to combat this, which I'm really thankful for, because the state has been pretty committed to helping the people's oral health. It's been fun. It's been a nice ride. My only regret is I'm getting older, and I fear running out of time, because I think we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp of actually eliminating tooth decay, and kids having to suffer the ravages of tooth decay, and adults having to have as much repair and as much dentistry needed going into the future. So I'm really excited to be here with Steve. He's one of my heroes, and he's one of my heroes in dentistry, and I really appreciate counting him as a friend.
Thank you, Mike. You're my hero too. Let's end tooth today together.
Yeah.
Any questions for us?
So, how many applications does it take? Can you walk us through more big picture process for how it's done?
So it's a very good question. The exact protocol to get the best results is still being figured out. And the January issue of the California Dental Association is a very important paper by a group of academics, one of whom is here with us today, Eleni, a co-author of this paper with Dr. Horst and Dr. Milgram. And so what I experienced is that one application wasn't always successful. And what I learned from Dr. Black years and years ago, he said multiple applications are good. And so we developed a protocol which we're now using at Shoreview of applying silver compounds once a week for 3 weeks. And we found that that stops the decay. It absolutely is effective. So 3 interventions. There is a very big study going on right now in China, in Hong Kong, that looks at this in more detail. And so we believe that the science will be coming to help us answer that question better.
So just to clarify, like with Ashley's teeth today, she already had some silver compound on her teeth, yeah. So that had been applied several weeks ago in multiple applications, and then today with the fluoride? I believe,
no. So the protocol is to apply the silver compound to the lesion, and then the fluoride varnish is placed to sort of protect that from saliva. And so it's a 2-step. We don't do the silver and the fluoride varnish later, we do them together. And then once the cavity is dead and arrested, and we've seen that for weeks or sometimes months, then we will decide to place a filling or not. And in the case of Ashley, we're planning on putting fillings in the front teeth where the dark arrested cavity is not very aesthetic. And so we want to wait at least 1 to 3 months to make sure that the cavity is dead, not growing, and then we place the fillings that are appropriate.
Okay, so that silver or the dark spots on our teeth will come out and be replaced with a filling.
In this case, what we will most likely do is simply cover the dark scar with a tooth-colored veneer filling material.
By the way, we'd be remiss, Dr. Bruce Otson with us today. He's the dental director for the state of Oregon, and I was involved with helping get him hired, and we're really tickled to death. He's there for the first time in a long time in the state of Oregon. We have somebody sitting at the table representing us, so thanks, Bruce, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Doffin, is this, I know you're talking about the kids and stuff, but is it something that you can utilize on people that just have a hard time with their oral hygiene, like special needs or elderly patients? Would that work in their case as well?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. And basically, this protocol of using an antimicrobial agent to stop tooth decay works in decay in children and adults, special needs patients, seniors. In fact, I think perhaps the greatest value is in our seniors in long-term care that have poor oral hygiene, poor access to care, developing cavities that can't be treated otherwise. And the ability to put this tool into the hands of dental hygienists that can take that to the community is probably the most powerful intervention that I've seen in my career. Bruce.
As much sense as this makes to me and a lot of other people, I know not everybody's wildly excited about it. Why are people nervous about this, and what would you say to that?
Maybe Mike could answer that. I'm clueless. I don't understand why anyone would just be in love with this.
Well, I liken it to anything new is different. And very frankly, it's wise to be cautious about new stuff, because we've all been conned by things that come along that didn't turn out. So it's part of the whole science process is to be cautious. And it's new in the United States. It flies in the face of fee-for-service dentistry and the payment methodology that we have today. I liken it to a little bit though, like the people that came across on the Mayflower. They wanted to get away from the king's rule and king's religion until they came across the boat. They took the long boat up to they took the longboat up to the Plymouth Rock. Some people jumped out and said, "Oh, guys, this is exciting." Some people in the back of the boat said, "I'm scared. I want to go back to England." And there's a lot of change. You know, where Americans change is there's a lot of resistance to it, good and bad. And it takes information to get critical mass for everybody to know. And how come everybody knows how? Well, one day everybody knew how to use one of these. One day they just showed up because the information got to critical mass. And part of it is there's not enough knowledge base about it. Once you get to that point, in fact, it's kind of sweeping the country because it gives dentistry a tool. It also flies in the face of the system we use. We've been trying to get, one of our philosophies is get the science to where the people show up. Well, where do kids show up? Well, I asked the pediatricians how many well baby visits could a child have by age 3, and they said 12. Well, we only need 4. If we could get 4, and so I asked the pediatricians, well, could I pay you? Could I pay you every month for taking care of the people in your office to do this for us? And they said, but we don't know how to fit it into our system flow. And so what we've done is we put a hygienist in that pediatrician's office to see if we could help them develop system flows so they would fit in and make sense. And so, you know, change is hard, and putting the systems in place doesn't come easy. And I think Dr. Austin's a great question. And you know, it causes a scar in the tooth, which is dark. The cavity is dark, but it causes a scar in the tooth. And I think there's a psychological element to this because who wants to have kids? It's kind of embarrassing to have your kids that have decay, and I think so. There's a piece of that to it, and so it takes a lot of languaging and a lot of. The other thing about it is this a work in progress? It's a work in progress, and the culture in America is a lot different than the culture in China. It's a lot different than the culture in Argentina. More similar to Australia, but still different. And so the way Americans do things are a cultural issue that we have to deal with, and. There's also a pricing issue. How do you price it in a way that makes sense so that you can do it in a way that the states can afford and the dentists could actually continue to make a living and move forward. And so there's all of those things that come with change. It's very difficult that you deal with, and Dr. Austin deals with it every day because being a dental director over a place that never had one before, I suspect you have a little change going on over there.
Yeah, people know I'm there.
Yeah.
I would like to say that you mentioned that the FDA doesn't necessarily do the research to approve the product, they just get it ready for market. Within the state system, we have the state Medicaid system, we have the Health Evidence Review Commission.
Right.
They do take a scientific, research-based, evidence-based look at new procedures that they're willing to put on the covered list of Medicaid procedures.
Yeah, the FDA is about safety,
Right.
about patient safety, make sure it's safe and that people won't get harmed. And the efficacy, you have to prove that it works, but it's a lot more about safety than it is about doesn't work. And the Evidence Review Committee, I think, one of the problems with silver nitrate was there's a lot of old, it wasn't science, it was old reports. And dentistry didn't have science in the old days, that they had basically, we just reserved our observations and it would work. The nice thing about silver nitrate fluoride is there's a significant body of work, research around it that shows it works. And I think that helped us with the Health Evidence Review Committee and everything.
Yeah, and because of that research, they agreed to have it covered in the covered section of Medicaid for more than 25% of our volumes now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So it's a respected, recognized.
Yeah, and that's a great point because it's very frankly, having done this for 20 years and watched it, I can't remember what it was called before, it was the Health Evidence Review Committee. Anyway, they as you know, Oregon has a prioritized list. And rather than the theory being, rather than I hate to use the word ration, but that's kind of the way it was, rather than ration people or what we paid, it was, can we ration procedures? Are there procedures that we can get by with without having to do that would allow us to save money so we didn't have to kick people off the plan? Or make it so, make the cost such that no provider would participate. So it was kind of a compromise that Oregon has been using for 23 years. And it's a very great, it's a great committee. They do great work over there. And I know you participate in that, Dr. Allen participates in that. Thanks to Capital Dental and a lot of the rest of us were able to get somebody on the Health Evidence Review Committee, and we were able to get a dental director and some great partners there.
Can you talk some more about how you can make it affordable for the states and so the dentists can actually make a living?
Our belief is that it ought to be the material itself is not expensive. The cost of getting it approved and all the stuff to go with it has some cost to it, but not that much. So the product itself is not that expensive. The problem with it is it can only be applied by a license because it's a fluoride. It's a fluoride compound which can only be applied by certain licensed people or under the supervision of licensed people. And so there comes with it a cost of that. And so the whole being is we can do it in an expensive enough way that everybody can afford it and it can be applied. What it really does is it allows you to stop decay, and then you're able to restore it with not as much fear that it's going to recur. Because when you're infected, you get a filling. Some studies show that if you get a cavity and you're infected, you'll get another cavity in a year. Okay, and so this allows you to slow that process down. And the hope is it allows to, and that's what Steve's experience and others is that it allows us to have to do less fillings into the future, which is which is cost savings for all of us.
But that would also mean less potential income for dentists.
Good.
So how do you convince people to do that?
Well, my belief is I'm a dentist. I went to dental school. I mean, I know the system probably as well as anybody does. And most of the dentists that I know are ethical people, and given a good product, they'll do the right thing. When it takes them a while, they might come kicking and screaming. But most of the people that I know, that by and large, are people who want to do the right thing. We're in a process now of sorting out how we look at work. What's really happening in the United States is the payment methodology we use. Oregon's version of a mechanical care organization, a group of physicians or providers who take on a group of people for certain outcomes for a certain price. And that's kind of the system that Oregon's, it's called a coordinated care organization. So we're integrating oral health, physical health, and behavioral health under one place, and we're paying them in a block, in a global budget way, so we can use that money in a different way so we can get better outcomes. Because when we bend the cost curve at AAA, better care, better outcomes at a better cost. And can we do that? So it's really, in the old days, we just produced more to make more money. Well, nowadays, if you want to do better, you have to figure out how to do it better, because there isn't any more money. Chinese won't loan us anymore. We can't borrow anymore because we're not producing enough. I could get into the economics.
So when I opened Shoreview Dental 10 years ago, I also asked this very question of myself. If I am successful getting my patients to be healthier, how will I stay in business? I thought about that. And the fee-for-service business model was not going to be successful in that world. So I had to create a world where I did better when my patients were healthier, and we had to create a capitation-based reimbursement where I took responsibility for the oral health of a group of patients, and then if I was successful keeping them healthier, I was able to keep more of that money instead of spending it on root canals and crowns and taking them to the hospital and all these other things. And so Shoreview was built with that economic foundation, and at the time I didn't really understand as much about Advantage Dental. I didn't understand that that organization had been built with that philosophy in mind. So over the past 10 years, Mike and I have shared ideas, and I've learned, and I hope Advantage has learned, and we've all gotten smarter. But the goal being that we use our existing financial resources in more efficient ways so that we don't put doctors out of business, but we have healthier people.
The theory is that what we know today, there's no reason for any child to get a cavity if the knowledge were applied. Okay? There's no reason. The theory is if we can break the cycle with children so we don't have to spend that money, then we can take that money and have adults have better care. You see what I'm saying? So the real key is how wouldn't it be nice if every child in Oregon graduating high school never having to have a filling, never having to have a cavity? Well, that's possible with the knowledge we have today. If we could apply it in an appropriate way, we could cause that to happen. So if we could break the cycle of everybody assuming that you just get cavities and you got to go to the dentist and get your cavities filled, because the three of us know that we have the knowledge to do it. And Don Berwick, the guy that kind of the father of this whole concept, said the remaining obstacles to the triple aim are not technical, they're political. And it's that question that Dr. Austin asked about the change and why is it hard to do and why are people resistant. If I were to put a stack of $100 bills up here and ask you all to come up and get them, they're free, you know what somebody would say? What's the catch?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, just couldn't really be true, or doesn't really work, or prove it to me, Even Doubting Thomas wanted to stick his finger in the wound to see if it really was true. So, it's just human nature.
So part of that question about proof, okay, is that it has to be more than hearsay. It has to be more than Dr. Duffin said it works. Okay, so having this show up in a peer-reviewed scientific journal that is highly respected is an important part of that process.
Have it reviewed by the Health Evidence Review Committee, and allow it to be added to the armamentarium and things that we can use. Those are things that then it's not just Dr. said or he said or anybody said it. It's actually been reviewed. It's shown to work. It's shown to be safe. And we're in the process now of fitting that technology into our culture and making it work.
So when was it officially approved by that committee?
October, I believe.
I think so.
Sometime in the fall. Yeah, sometime in the fall. Part of the problem with it is we didn't have a code. And the Oregon Health Authority approved the code, or the American Dental Association, which approves the CDT codes, the dental codes, approved it last year, and then to start the 1st of January. And so the Oregon Health Authority couldn't really approve it without a code, and so January 1st it was approved, because now we have a code for caries arrestment. Now we're in the process of trying to figure out what's the protocol, the appropriate protocol that fits in it. We're in the process of doing that. And there's a rulemaking process that's going forward that Dr. Austin and all of us have been involved with.
So after the 3 weeks of application, is there any follow-up months or years down the line?
So in my practice in Shoreview, once we have identified that the lesions have become arrested, we see the patient back at 3 months and at 6 months. And if everything is stable, no new decay, no change in decay, then the patient re-enters our regular 6-month recall program, and in a state that we believe is disease-free and stable. So we've had the benefit of having our patients that live close to our practice, and so we're able to watch this very, very carefully. And I've been nervous about treating patients in a novel, non-traditional way, and then not seeing them again, having them vanish and having a problem develop. So we've taken a lot of effort to make sure that we watch this process very, very closely.
Dr. Duffin has been worried about his system. He's been worried about every tooth. There's two pieces. One, there's worried about each individual person, each individual tooth, and then there's worried about the population. In dentistry, in the Oregon Health Authority, we're going from individual-based care to population-based care, and how do you do both? And we're kind of in that process. And so it's a way, the demonstration projects, which we're doing right now, we're in the 3rd year of the coordinated care, because it's a 5-year demonstration project, and we're right in the middle of it. And very frankly, there's been some really phenomenal results that are coming out of it, and it's a work in progress, and so we're just finding that out. So it's been pretty fascinating to watch and be involved with.
Any other questions, comments?
You don't have to. You wrote the paper.
Nothing from Eleni. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Well, with that, we'll wrap up our press conference, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for making this successful. Look forward to the next 10 years.